All right. I think it worked. By golly gee gosh, I think it worked. Okay, so we are live. Welcome, welcome. Let me make sure I can see everything accordingly. There's always a slight delay and Microsoft is crashing. So Mayday warning, warning. Microsoft is crashing. So any glitches, any things that happened, it is not my fault. Everything is set. We are live. It's all working perfectly. So hello, everybody. It said we have a current viewer. If you are here, welcome. Just feel free to communicate, because that's important. We send love, but we need to know you're here too. I like that. But anyways, my name is Master Juniper Blue Mystique. I am an Ascension Master, Master Healer, and a Divine Guide. I have been working diligently since 2019. After I had my own Kundalini awakening, doing things that blew my own mind. And I'm going to tell you in a serious space today of we need to be focused through love. Okay, the lens of love, the lens of understanding. I am an Ascension Master. Hang on. Healer and a Divine Guide. I have been working diligently since 2019. After I had my own Kundalini. Was that yours?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, okay. As you can tell, I have a guest with me today. I will introduce her in just a second. Oops. And Microsoft is glitching, and so just bear with us. Hopefully it doesn't freeze or anything like that. I am currently transitioning out of all of Microsoft. But so in 2019, I started my own path, but I'm going to tell you guys, the things that we're going to talk about today are very real. They have been tried and true part of our journey. I say ours because she has been on this path with me since she met me in 2019. That was some major thunder right there too. Good Lord Almighty. And I'm just going to request that today we don't come from a place of judgment at all, right? Because that is a shadow. That is not God. And we're going to talk about some things, right? Some things that might be very deep, that might be a little bit hard to understand. Okay. But on this page, this channel, whatever the heck this space is, my YouTube channel, you will find everything that I'm going to mention. Okay. It has played out through me since 2019. And Amy, this is Amy. She has been a witness, and not only a witness, she's been a part of my journey. We have to talk about today the revelations, basically. The return of Christ, right? We have to talk about what's going on in the world. Some of you may have noticed there was a big, massive shift recently, and it absolutely has to do with the timeline shift that God says was not exactly planned. The timeline of the wrath and the wrath path. Okay. On this channel, you're going to find pyramid activations. You're going to find clearing of Mount Shasta activations of so many different things. And so I want you to understand that it's all available for you to do your research after. For now, I just ask for you to keep an open mind. Okay. All right. Amy, would you like to introduce yourself really quickly and talk about, the reason you're here, your journey to being here. Jasaint is here also. Hello, Jasaint.
So I'm Amy H. Many videos I've been on with you. So I'm Amy H. I've been doing this since 2019 with you. Originally, I started because I was having really bad headaches and not knowing what the heck was going on. I came into it. We started out doing healings first, like healings and everything, getting me off medications, and then we started doing workshops. And then we went on, started doing the Path of Righteousness with you. And it's been almost 5-6 years now. We did the twin flame thing. We did all kinds of stuff. So I helped heal you with the twin flames.
Oh, she helped save my life. She's downplaying that a little bit, more than once, actually. She helped save my life. Because what is true about the return of Christ? Some of it's true, some of it's not, to what the Bible and what the world tells you. Okay, first of all, a lot of the matrix is there to fool you, to guide you away from what is true. Okay, so I need you to kind of open up to that a little bit, because we didn't know what was coming. Amy can vouch that I didn't know what was coming ever, like until it was done.
No.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And during that, she's modest. So I don't want her to be too modest, y'all. I'm gonna unmodestize her, whatever you want to say, because um what you guys don't realize is we went through hell and back. That is not a joke. And I got chills when I said that. During the return of Christ stuff, whatever I was doing, I was just called to do things, right? It's about following your heart and not always understanding why, but knowing that things are strange and you feel this call deep within you and you don't let anything stop you. And that's what I did. And that's also what she did. She kept showing up, she kept doing her part, and she would do these pyramid activations with me. And we got to a certain point in that, and all of a sudden, my twin flame journey hit. And I'm not kidding you. And all of a sudden I met him. I ended up being moved 2 doors down from him, and our souls went like this. Physically, energetically, it was massive. And from that moment on, for about a year, I fought for my soul. And if it weren't for Amy opening up to me, teaching her how she can heal, right? Because I didn't teach her necessarily something that wasn't in her, but I opened her up to the healer in her. And my Light Academy was born because God said, teach her how to do it. So I did. And she ended up saving my life. It was one of the most painful, scary experiences. Okay. So when the Bible talks about twin souls, when the Bible talks about the union of the two coming together, that is very real. Okay. And that was part of the journey. What I'm going to really truly talk about right now, and we'll dive deeper into that, is recently God put on my lap. Well, he always does, right? Everything I do is through God. Everything I do. AH is modest, just says, and she did save my life numerous times. Yes, she did. If it weren't for her, we would not have made it. I wouldn't have. Because she helped heal those attacks. Attacks from fallen angels are something you don't want to gawk at. You want to talk about exorcisms? I think we did. Good. You can see the comments. I'm so glad you can. We did true exorcisms, my friends. They are not what the shows you. Okay. I wasn't necessarily possessed, but they did try to kill me. And God called me mahogany for a reason. Which means can take a strike and keep on ticking, because I wasn't supposed to survive. My DM did not, and I got to walk in. Okay, that's how bad and intense and how massive their attempt to stop the return of Christ was. Okay, and still is to this day. Well, it's less now because we actually completed it. But what God showed me the other day, how do I explain this? There's so much to it, right? So in the return of Christ, you have the timeline, you have I closed down all 12 gates of darkness. I opened up all 13 gates of light. I did it through pyramid activations, clearing Mount Shasta, restoring the root chakra back to Fiji, freeing Jesus's soul, which eventually aligned with my new DM. And it was blowing our minds. We didn't understand this at first. You have to understand that, as we didn't understand what was happening and what I was doing until it was done. Okay, so I don't expect you guys all to understand it. I'm just asking you to be open. Once it was completed and I processed the Earth's death, Fiji was restored, two parts of that. Mount Shasta was completely cut off from life support, all of California, 2 parts of that. That's going to be relevant. I got a download of some information at that time. And I also dried the Nile. Sekhmet and Horus returned. The sun and the moon were completely healed and realigned. And I was shown a timeline. It was a final timeline. God told me we had 2 cycles left. There was also an energy of 2 years. Okay. And a lot of people took that and thought that was going to be the absolute end. But it turns out what that 2-year period was determining heart measurements, right? Heart soul measurements of the collective timeline of the 7th wave, like what do they call that? The tribulation period, 7-year tribulation period, which I didn't fully understand myself because I don't read the Bible. I always knew something was wrong with that. So in truth, you do have a 7-year tribulation period. You guys need to hear me very carefully, because I have been doing the work for 5 years. Okay. When I got a download of the final timeline, there was 2 years left to that 7-year period. Because of the way I was treated, because of the way the ascension was treated, because of all the judgments, the harsh attempts to destroy and separate, the inability to people to just click links, how many people all over the world are truly into the false, the matrix, and they don't want to change. God has ended the heart measurement period. Okay. And the wrath path has changed. It has grown. So when I cleared Mount Shasta, you can watch those videos. I was told it was going to, the changes of tide was going to come in through San Francisco. It was only going to be like a certain amount of cleansing. And because of everything, and the determinant of the way everybody responded, reacted, and how many people just are choosing not to even just see, the wrath path has shifted. Okay. Now, that was a lot of information. I'm going to show you something and then we're going to talk about it. Okay. I'm going to share my screen with you guys and I'm going to show you the information God gave me. I'm going to read the channeled message I got this morning from God about what this means. The timeline has shortened. You are now in the wrath path completely. Okay. There is no more heart measurements for the collective soul. All right. Now it's those who are going to rise are going to rise. The end is like unfolding now. So let me show you what that means. Okay. I don't know if Amy's seen this. Amy, have you watched the video that I shared the other day? Did you watch it? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it's not her first time, but I want you guys to listen to it very carefully. Okay. Like very, very carefully, because there are specific details in it that I'm going to point out. Now, I know you can see my screen. I'm changing it over to this one. Okay. So this video that we are about to watch, please forgive me because Microsoft is crashing, you guys. I cannot help that. I am currently switching over servers. So I just ask that you have all kinds of utmost patience and kind of an open mind today, okay? Because these things are not normal. And you're going to hear things and you're going to see things that aren't normal. And it's not about fear. I need you to understand that. I don't speak through fear. I don't try to create the lens of fear. That is the matrix, okay? Fear is a lens because we have our own power, okay? We have power, we have free will, we have choices to rise and ascend. And the return of Christ has been playing out right here in front of you. So everybody had a choice to see it or not. Okay, so no fear, just listen. This is the video God wanted me to watch, and I'm going to explain why.
Family, I'm excited to be with you all again today. First off, I want to say thank you for all the likes, all the shares, this vision lasted longer than any vision that I've ever had. And each scene lasted for what it seemed like a long time for my flesh. And so I'm going to tell you what I saw at this time, okay? So I was caught up. I was interceding like I always do at night. And I was interceding for America and for Israel and for the war and all that was going on. But I knew in my spirit there's something going on with our economy. And the Lord was warning me about another financial crash coming. And so I was just praying over this, but it was very intense intercessory prayer, praying for the economy and the collapse of the dollar. And so all of a sudden I'm caught up in the spirit, and I see in a vision New York City. And the Lord shows me New York City, and I see Times Square, but I'm noticing when I'm in the vision that there's no people around. It's complete. All the lights are on. Everything is really bright. I can see the marquee signs everywhere, but I'm noticing a couple of snowflakes falling down in Times Square. It wasn't a heavy snow. It was just a little bit of snow. And I looked around me, and there was no people around. There was just a couple of people.
I need you to hear that, okay? New York is relevant. I actually put on my channel the other day, Project Bluebeam. It was the healing that I did that cleared the Twin Towers. New York was mentioned in there. China, these things are all relevant, and they do play out in the work that I did. Now, the wrath path was going to be smaller. It's now larger. So I need you to hear every detail he says.
There wasn't a lot of people, so I was expecting, I don't know if this was late at night or if this was just a time that there was no people out because of for some reason, I don't know. And all of a sudden I could see from the east a gypsy cart. There was no horses pulling this cart. There was no it had colors on it. It was red. It was vibrant looking colors, but there was like these tassels coming down in the door frame of this cart, and there was like these tassels, like the tapestry or something, dangling down. And the cart was out of control. It was moving at a very rapid pace, coming down this main street of Times Square, and it was moving back and forth, and it was rocking back and forth as it was out of control, kind of like an old horse buggy carried. Whenever it's out of control, you can see it's like it's rocking, and I could see the wheels touching and going back and forth, touching as it was moving closer to me as I was standing in Times Square in this vision. And everything inside of that gypsy cart was falling. I could see the stuff on the shelves, and I could see the light, and there was a light, those old like wick candle lights, those old glass lights that had it was attached like that. And it was, those oil lanterns, and it was moving and it was swaying all back and forth inside of this gypsy cart. And it ended like that with this part of the vision. Then all of a sudden I was taken to Miami, and I was standing in Miami with all these big like neon lights again, and I see all these lights, but I'm noticing again there's no people moving around. And all of these visions of this time are all on the East Coast, and I'm seeing this. And I forgot to tell you this. I see at this time I'm in Times Square again. I'm going to tell you about this. I'm sorry to jump around. I see a massive moon in.
Keep this in mind. The moon is very relevant to the work that I did. Okay, I started out clearing all darkness of the moon. If you think you weren't being controlled, you were. The moon is not fake. It's very real, but it has since been reborn. And today's a full moon. So hear this closely.
In the sky, I look up, and my attention is drawn to this massive moon, and I see a little sliver of it, so I know it wasn't a full moon, and it was still kind of just coming up over the horizon. So now I'm going to go back to Miami. I see the same moon over Miami, and I see that over here, but it's.
I need to tell you that is representative of Judgment Day, the work that was done, because Horus returned, Sekhmet returned, Adam and Eve returned, Jesus and Mary Magdalene have returned. They weren't separate for the return of Christ. Okay, it wasn't just about Jesus. This is about all of it. It required clearing the moon, clearing the sun, realigning them, undoing all darkness. So this is this is more relevant than you think. Pay attention to every detail. This gentleman got the vision like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and it aligns with everything I did. So you have to very carefully listen, and then I'm going to explain to you what it means.
But I'm down here in Miami, and I see it, and it's up here now instead of right in front of me in New York. So it's in a different position, but I'm looking at it over like this because I'm in a different place in the United States. Thousands of probably 1,000 miles. I don't know how far that is, but it's from New York to there is probably 1,500 miles. And so I'm seeing the same moon is what I'm trying to tell you all. So all of a sudden, I'm like I said, I'm noticing there's no people walking around. It's completely quiet, and it's at the night. And nightlife is big, booming in both cities. And so everything is just at a standstill. And all of a sudden, I'm taken up, and I'm looking out over the United States. And then the Lord shoots me up in the sky, and I'm in the throne room. And all of a sudden, the Lord speaks to me in the throne room, and he said, Brandon, I told you, it's time to come up higher. It's time to come up higher with the fire. It's time to come up in a higher place with me prophetically and what I'm trying to show you for these last days. And he warned me. And so all of a sudden I could see out over the edge of heaven, and I could see all these lightning bolts and all this turmoil all going down over the earth. And I was watching and I was.
Did you hear what he just said? I know it's glitching. Bear with the Microsoft crash, okay? I'm trying to get out of Microsoft, so I do apologize. He specifically just said lightning strikes. Amy, while I was activating pyramids, how many times did lightning strikes come up?
Oh, almost every time.
Every single time we lightning strike the White House, and then it happened in real time a few times. I talk about fires. When I process the earth's death, I said everything that doesn't align is going to burn. So every detail of his vision, this is what was mind-boggling and what I had to process God's message to be. It took me a minute. Every detail of his vision is spot on for the work that I did, but I don't think he even realizes it all of the way yet. So let's just listen.
Trying to look down, and he told me, he said, you cannot prophesy at a place of carnality, right where this is on the earth. He said, when you're looking into the situation and you're on the earth, you need to come up higher prophetically. Okay.
Everybody does. So I don't care who you are. That's what I mean. You can't bring judgment here. You have to think in a divine realm. Okay. You need to come up out of the matrix energy to even see what this means, the totality of what this is. And God's telling him the same thing, because there's even more he's not processing yet. Okay. Keep listening. This is so profound. This guy, I'm sure he knows now how connected he is, because he told you even about the Trump shooting that was coming, which I told you was an inside job. But let's listen.
So I was trying to prophesy, but being at the throne room of God, I could see Jesus, and he had a golden scepter. And
Amy, what was the relevance of the golden scepter?
That's part of what Jesus has and holds.
So
Amen.
remember in Sekhmet, who was the
Yes.
one holding it?
Horus.
Nope. It was me. So this is why I wanted to go over this, because I know you were in it. So it's hard to remember everything, because when I do the work, it's very profound. But if you go back and you watch the Nile, just the Nile one first, and then you watch Horus return, because those two go together, right? In the Nile, I was given my staff, I believe, at the very end, and it eventually filled up with the light of the sun. And then I have a snake on my head and the light of the sun, right? And I cleared all the darkness from the earth. I dried the Nile after turning it blood red, and I shot karma all across the earth. Then when Horus returned a few months later, gosh, was it like 6 months later, because my DM finally rose to that, you had to help me hold the moon, because my DM was not present with us. So I had to give you guys that strength. Remember that? And I broke off the crust of the moon so that it can be reborn. And then when I did that, Horus got the light of the moon in a necklace on his neck returned. And I had the staff of the sun.
Yes.
And then when we were married, when God married us, I'm going to tell you this right now. You can watch these videos. It's all on my thing. God married my DM and I. I have the staff. He carries the light of the moon on his chest. I am the sun. He is the moon. This is Jesus. Jesus is not separate from this. Okay. Neither is Mary Magdalene. The whole thing is there. I undid the Holy Grail on Christmas Day. That's also very relevant, because he's going to talk about Christmas Day too in another one of his videos. Okay. But, so when I broke the crest of the moon, I was holding the staff. My DM gets the light of the moon on his chest, the moon, the sun. I returned all power of the sun to the earth. You guys need to hear this, because you're about to go through the wrath of this. You already are. And it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because God said enough of the 7-year tribulation. It's now. Okay. And the wrath path got bigger than it was supposed to be. God, when he married my DM and I, he put this fur like thing around our shoulders, right? And they talk about
like a cloak.
Yes. Yeah, like a cloak. It was like this fur wrapping, and they would put me and him on this throne, and I was wearing this crown, and it had all of these jewels in it. Now listen to his description very carefully of Jesus.
Okay. So I was trying to prophesy, but being at the throne room of God, I could see Jesus, and he had a golden scepter in his hand. And on his head, he had a crown, and it was purple, and it was gold, and it had jewels all over it. It was beautiful. And he had some kind of fur on the band of this crown. And I could see a cape, like a cloak, around him. And he was just sitting there, ruling and reigning with the Father. And he said, sit before me, sit, be at peace. There was a place of peace. But at this, it was, like whenever you are seeing over in the spirit realm and all this is happening, and it's happening so fast. I don't know how long he made me sit there, but he wanted me to be peace and be still.
I'm going to tell you right now, these things are not small. The information I'm giving you is not something you can take in little bits and pieces and think you know it all. Trust me. It takes a while to process. It takes a lot to understand. And then it takes those full circle moments to allow space for it to circle back around and go. You can't deny them in that way, okay? And if you watch the entirety of my journey unfold since 2019, he is telling you the outcome and pieces he couldn't know. I had the crown. There was jewels. I was given this purple light. It was gold. We had so much gold in the Nile that was returned back to us. I had the staff, but this is combined because we're twin souls. That's why I'm telling you, you're not looking for just a man. You're looking for a twin soul, twin flames. Listen.
Stop with all the drama that you're feeling, because I could feel like a whirlwind inside of all that was going on the earth. But he wanted me to just sit there and be still. And after
God wants me to tell you right now too, is during my twin flame journey, I had to battle the false goddess. This was the false depiction of beauty, fake, false, plastic, arrogance, the need for lust and multiple partners, karmic relationship patterning. I actually had to undo and beat the false goddess to unite with my DM. And that is also depicted in my Ascension playlist. These things were recorded because God told me to record my sessions. So that's why. And it's all there and it all unfolds in order. So I need you to hear that. Now pay attention.
a moment of just a yield. He wanted me to yield. This is what was really happening in the natural for me in this moment, because I was so caught up with everything that I was feeling about the economy and what was going on. I felt
money was put in a portal. I keep telling you guys, you're about to witness the biggest money crash, but it's because it won't survive. You have to rise out of the matrix in order to have abundance. And if you don't get to stay here, if you don't rise out of that money control and have your own sovereignty from it, meaning be able to create your money path, your power, your sovereignty, you're going to fall with it. If money is what governs you over love, you are about to feel that karmic wrath.
such a troubling. And he told me, just be still before me. Do not, with all this drama, with what you're feeling inside. Because I was seeing that he wanted me to come up higher with what I was about to see. And so after, whenever you rest and you yield, you raise your hands before him. That's what it was like in this moment. And I just was like, I said, Father, I just yield to you. And instead of being like a toddler squirming on some, whatever you're holding a toddler and they want to squirm off the lap and they don't want to be held, they want to go about.
That's part of why I'm telling you right now, the 7-year part has been cut short by 2 years, because we're too busy. We're too busy to sit still and listen. We're too busy to click a link and watch the resurrection occur on Christmas Day and what it means for the Holy Grail to be undone. And what does it mean for pyramids to be activated and clearing Mount Shasta? And so many judgments came into the return of Christ. So when he's talking about this toddler squirming, trust me when I tell you, the outcome of the heart measurement of the collective soul is arrogance, not love.
Crawling around and being about their business. It was like that, to say, I'm broken. I just yield to you. I'm not going to sit there and squirm in your lap anymore. I'm going to take that time and just going to worship you, because I was caught up, but there was so much peace around me at this time frame. But I had such an urgency to want to pray for what was going on with what I felt. And he said, come up higher, come up higher. So I got quiet before him. And whenever I got that quiet and I yielded, all of a sudden I was taken, boom. And I heard this and I was able to see, and I was taken back down to, I was in the spirit realm, but I was in a place where I was looking out over the United States as a whole. And he said,
hear me now. I cut off life support to California. I'm going to tell you right now the original path of wrath. Changes of tides were going to come in through San Francisco. I saw land falling. I saw the earth shifting and cracking and moving. And we were supposed to have a little bit more than a quarter of the collective soul left. It is now a bigger wrath path, and less people chose love. Listen.
He said, I have blessed you. I have blessed you, O America. I have blessed you above all nations.
Listen carefully.
I have put you ahead of all nations. I have chosen you. Have been called by me, and I've chosen you. And I have put a prosperity on you. But I have weighed you in the balance, and you are lacking.
Do you know what he means by weighed you in the balance? Put it together with the pyramids. They show you the scales of justice with the heart on it. This is what I have been saying in every one of my videos since I have been activating pyramids, since I have been doing the work, since I cleared the Holy Grail, which was not holy at all, and it had everything to do with Israel. Okay, this has everything to do with the last 5 years being your 7-year tribulation period, which has now ended, and you are now in the wrath path. It had to end early, okay, because too many people are not choosing love. I had so much judgments come my way instead of people just watching, surrendering, holding space for what really is instead of what they convinced you was. Okay, you need to listen to this very, very, very carefully. This is not about fear. This is about lack of love and understanding what love is, and what this world was not, and what truly happened to God. Not the version they tell you, but the truth. The truth shall set you free. Let's listen. Uh-oh, bear with it. Microsoft is being funky monkey. Come on, work, buddy, work. Hang on with me, my friends. So I'm going to tell you right now, the original wrath path was not that. Okay, Amy, can you still hear me?
Can, yeah.
Okay, we're going to give Microsoft a little moment to get out of its little brain fart here, because I can't help that it has been. In one, I'm telling you guys, it has everything to do with that Black Hawk. It has everything to do with everything you're seeing playing out in the world right now. Everything from the attempted assassination, which has we haven't had a lot of those throughout history, right? But the ones that we have were very relevant. When I cleared Mount Shasta, I cleared that contract, which was what was Emancipation Proclamation, which didn't come into law until Abraham was murdered, okay? So you guys need to put this together very carefully, all right? Very carefully. Let's see if it's going to let me play. Are you going to let me play you? I hope it does. We're going to let it keep processing. You can find these videos on my channel. Mount Shasta Part 1.
He kept saying, he said this to me 3 times.
Listen.
I have weighed you in the balance. And you are lacking. He was quoting Daniel to me. Daniel, I don't remember. I'll put it in the description below. But he was quoting Daniel. I have weighed you in the balance, and I have found you lacking. I have found you lacking. And he kept quoting that to me. I heard it, and it was echoing out over the land. I have weighed in the balance, and I have found you lacking.
I've been telling you this whole time your hearts were being measured. Everything you do was a testament. Everything you do was a challenge. It was a test of God. It was to determine where your heart is. Do you choose love, or are you governed by the shadow, by the false goddess, by the karmic patterning, by the veil of the illusion? Do you anchor into the shadow, the money, the selfishness, the judgment, all of these things. And God kept showing me, even though it hurt me, that the way people reacted to my work was a testament to them and not to me, and to hold strong, because even I didn't see clearly who I was yet. Okay, now I need you to listen. This heart measurement thing that he's referring to is true. And this was God showing me that it's done.
And all of a sudden, I'm seeing over America a woman, and she had blonde hair, and she had extensions all in her hair. And she had all kinds of fillers in her face, and her lips were done up, and her face had Botox all in it. She had massive breasts from having augmentation on her body.
Fake.
And she had a little bitty waist, and she had a really, really tight fitting clothes on, really revealing clothes. And the Lord is showing me this woman, and he said, she is full of pride. You are full of pride. You are full of yourself. It was arrogance before him. And he was calling out the behavior of the woman. Now, I don't know if the woman represented America, she looked like a harlot. I'm just saying. And so he was calling out the behavior of this woman. And he said, you've weighed in the balance. I've weighed you in the balance, and you come up lacking. And he was speaking to this woman, but it represented America, full of pride, full of arrogance. And he said, oh, I have blessed you. Oh, that I have blessed you. And I have made you greater than any other nations. And then all of a sudden, it was the pride that he was disgusted with upon the way the woman was carrying herself. And I seen her face, and she was so arrogant, so looking in the mirror, vain. She was vain, looking at the mirror. She was looking at a mirror, and she was looking at herself. She just thought she was all that. She was just everything, the way she was carrying herself in this mirror, okay? Looking at herself. And she kept looking at her body, looking at her hair, looking at everything. And she was so proud of the way she looked. But she was so fixated on herself, she wasn't looking at what was going on around her.
Amen.
And all of a sudden, the Lord said, I want to show you something. I heard him. And I saw a square, a massive gold square that was really thick. And
listen very carefully, because Spirit speaks cryptically. Just like he said, that was the heart of the world. Okay, God showed me this. This is the final judgment of the collective soul. Listen very carefully. The wrath path has now widened and changed. If you watch Mount Shasta part 1 and 2, I tell you the change in tides were going to come in through San Francisco. I told you what doesn't align burns. I told you religion is a false concept, and it is one of the shadow that has to fall. How many churches are burning right now? But the people are being saved from them. Listen carefully.
Was a supernatural covering that was over Yellowstone National Park. And he had put a covering over this area. And it was a massive square that went all the way up over these states. It was a golden square, and it was placed. And he had sewn it all on those states, sewed it. He had sewed it.
That's very interesting, because Amy can vouch, and there was others that rose with me too that are going through their own stuff right now, because the shadow's been wreaking havoc, let me tell you. But as I was activating pyramids, you guys, they related to volcanoes, and there was only 2 that I ever healed. And I can't remember those to this day, but there was 2 volcanoes that I healed. They're in my videos. You have to watch the pyramid activations, from the feminines to the masculines: Indonesia, Myanmar, Machu Picchu, Congo, British Columbia, Thailand, and more. And they relate to the volcanoes. There was some underwater. And when I did the Congo, Colombia one, I was in the water, and I was activating Kilimanjaro. And I kept saying, Krakatoa, Krakatoa. What is Krakatoa? 6 days later, Krakatoa erupted. Then I also said I needed to move over Hawaii because I didn't want to lose it all. And within days or a week later, that fire for Lahaina just went wham and wiped it out. And in every one of my pyramid activations, every single one, I say, oop, fires, fires, fires coming your way. Fires, 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 earth shaking, earth moving. Now let's listen.
I could see a golden thread that was weaved all throughout this golden garment that looked very thick. It was a thick piece of something, and it was over those states, over over that volcanic area. And he had put a covering of protection and a peace over that. It was sealed to the earth. Okay, it was sealed to the earth. And all of a sudden, I saw that golden stuff that was tied to the earth. It was released, and it had a gap in between the earth and this golden protection that was over that area. And all of a sudden, I felt a violent volcano go off in that area, a violent volcano. And I saw Portland, Oregon, and I saw the Space Needle in Seattle, completely destroyed. I saw the area between Portland, Oregon, and the ocean going this way. It split off from a massive earthquake. A massive, massive earthquake.
I told you when I cleared Mount Shasta, part 1 and 2, I cracked Mount Shasta down the mountainside. It went all the way down the fault line. California falls in the water, and the water comes up over San Francisco. A massive earthquake, okay? This is because I cut off life support to all of California. The earthquakes, the volcanoes, they're all part of the pyramid activations that I did. They are all part of closing down all 12 gates of darkness and opening up the 13th into new earth. Then when I processed the earth's death, hear me now, I processed her death and I took her into heaven. Not everybody here is going to perish. Do not be in fear. Understand. I took her into heaven and she became all of the Garden of Eden. And I specifically said, everything outside is going to burn. And burn it will. Now listen.
The largest earthquake we've ever felt in this area before, ever. And it was a humongous earthquake. And the land from Portland, Oregon to the ocean broke off into the water. Okay. And and you could see the ground of this, I believe it's the San Andreas Fault. It lifted up the land up higher. And this land was lowered down to sea level. It was all the way to San Francisco.
Boom. San Francisco. Changes in tides are going to come in through San Francisco, but the path has widened. Now, here's another thing. On my channel, just about a week and a half ago, right before I was given this information, God gave me that song. San Andreas Fault moved his fingers through the ground. Earth collided. Yeah, it's coming sooner than originally planned. Okay. He was showing me this message was coming through that. And what I did aligns to that. Mount Shasta part 1 and 2, Fiji part 1 and 2, where I returned the God's portal. And that was a part of the false veil. So let's listen to the rest.
But San Francisco was not as affected as Portland, Oregon, and Seattle. The Space Needle.
That's interesting because California is dead to the Earth's blueprint. Dead. Completely dead. And actually right now, Sequoia is on fire, which is where I would take us a lot for healings during the return of Christ work. So let's listen.
Little thing that was in the air was gone. It was completely decimated. It was laying on its ground. All the major highline, the big structures were completely destroyed. It was something that looked like out of a movie, but it was tragic, a very tragic event. I saw the water come inland on this land. It did not bury the land, but it was probably 5 feet deep, 3 feet deep. I don't know, deep. You could still see the green grass. You could still see the trees sticking out of the water as far as you went inland. The further you went out, the deeper the water was. But the water came in as it was sea level. I don't know how else to describe this to you. I'm doing the best I can. But it went for hundreds of miles. All the land was completely submerged that broke off in an ocean. When the land moved and shifted, it caused a humongous tidal wave that hit Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska. The earthquake hit Alaska too, okay?
There was work that I did actually in Alaska as well, where all the oil fields were undone. I turned all the water orange. I can't remember exactly what that was. So let's, yeah.
And British Columbia. I saw
British Columbia happened with the masculine. Here, the moon. Remember the moons that he talked about? When I started activating the masculine pyramids with my new DM in the energy, we did Colombia, Congo, and Mount Kilimanjaro. And that is when I was underwater. And I said, Krakatoa, Krakatoa. 6 days later, it erupted. I said, I don't want to lose all of Hawaii. I need to move it over. I need to move it over. And within days, the Lahaina fire went right over Hawaii. So if you think Hawaii was something, listen.
all this land completely destroyed by this massive earthquake, okay? And the land was shifted up. It was elevated where it had broken off, okay? And the water was all coming inland. It was this, I know it's so far out there, but I'm trying to tell you all what I saw.
It's not far out there when you watch my work. Watch Mount Shasta Part 1, then watch Mount Shasta Part 2. Watch Fiji Part 1, then you need to watch the pyramid activations. Boom, 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 boom. I've been doing this work for 5 years. We were supposed to have 7 years of heart measurement, but let's listen.
Saw. And so all of Anchorage, Alaska was on fire, like Hawaii. And I saw fire all on where Alaska is, you know, all that area where all this land is right here, and all the trees, everything was on fire. Now I don't know why everything was on fire, but I'm talking massive fire.
And I told you several times throughout all my work, fire, fire. The reason they depict it as hell burning and heaven rising is because the energies don't align. And what I did is bring in the greatest removal of all darkness from light. You cannot do in the light darkness any longer, and you cannot take the light into the darkness any more. This is judgments, arrogance, selfishness, money control, division, fear, carnage, bloodshed, separation, removal of the masculine and feminine, the breaking of the Ankh into the cross, and then hanging Jesus because they stole his soul. That is the truth. What doesn't align will burn.
Had breaking out over all this area, and I could see all from British Columbia all the way up, complete devastation. But at this time, when the land did all this, it caused a massive disturbance in the Pacific Ocean, and it caused a massive tsunami wave to hit Japan. And Japan was completely destroyed by, like, all inland from this like Tokyo, like all that area. And that wave came inland, and just it was a massive wall of water came into Tokyo, Hawaii, all these areas. Okay, it was a massive amount of water coming into it from the force of.
If you watch Fiji, you watch the pyramid activations, you watch me clearing Mount Shasta, all of the gods, I opened up the portal again. That's part of the return of Christ, is the gods returning. And they went across the earth, and they can vouch for this. Amy can vouch for this in just a moment. We're going to talk more about it. And I'm going to give you God's channeled message as well. The angels, everything you're about to see is all divinely guided, and it's to take back our land, from water to fire to earthquakes to the earth sinkholes that are coming. I've mentioned those several times as well. It is part of the work that I did. It is part of the wrath path. What is the wrath path? It's just reclaiming our land. Listen.
Of this land falling into the water. And the water was going inland to these areas, okay, all on the Asia coastlines, okay. So I see all this, but I was just kept focusing on the string and everything, elevating all of this up into the air of this volcano erupting in Yellowstone National Park.
The reason that protection is there is because we're not here to destroy the whole earth. This is not the end of days for all. even though he says last days. It's the end of ways outside of true God. And if you can't choose love above all, unconditional, not conditional, you cannot rise. And this is God showing me now that it's all done, that the timeline shifted. And I told you it could. I did a video in my Ascension playlist about 8 months ago, and I said we had 2 years left. This is what that meant. The 2 years was cut short. The entire return of Christ went from a 7-year tribulation to ending at 5 and the wrath path widening, and you are now in the karmic return. So let's listen. The way to rise is to let go of all of the falsehoods, to heal all karma, all shadow, and return to the wholeness you are through God's true eyes. Okay, so no fear. But the heart measurement is done. And he said 3 times in there, I have measured you, and it is determined to be arrogant. You know how much judgments I got on this channel during the return of Christ? How many people tried to rip apart my DM&I? How many attacks I ensued? My body, I went from the most beautiful woman to beaten, tattered, bruised, and swollen because the attacks from fallen angels were very real. And not only that, I had to keep going and keep going and keep going alone. Listen.
Park, causing all this seismic activity that was taking place on.
He said, finish my words. I had to keep going. And in that, you know how many people told me, what's wrong with you? They stopped following me. They judged me. They criticized me. They wouldn't just click a video. I said, oh my God, on Christmas Day, I did a live and I said, we undid the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail was not a cup. And my DMs and my soul went whoosh, right back together. And shortly after that, I took on Mary Magdalene's soul, and Jesus made his way to my DM. And then Sekhmet and Horus timeline came. And that is when Kilimanjaro came in, and the White House was demolished completely. Completely. If you guys think Trump is here to rise, to stay in presidency, it is going to be a demise of the whole entire iconic reality that you know. The whole entire democratic, the whole entire world that is false. It is a king and a queen. It is Adam and Eve. But have we forgotten that?
On the West Coast. Now, I don't ever have visions very often of earthquakes on the West Coast. The Lord showed me a lot about the New Madrid. He showed me a lot about the East Coast and the storm coming, and about the economic disaster. But this time, whenever I'm praying this, the first time I'm telling you, I've seen something about the West Coast. I'm not trying to tell you this out of fear.
No. Fear should that's a false lens. That's a lens of the matrix. Okay. Here's another part God wants me to show you really quick that I was listening to. I started this in 2019. I rose Atlantis. I sat on Saturn with Hermes. I rose Atlantis, and I was reborn at Lake Titicaca. I cleared Mount Shasta. I got the white flame back. That is who I am. Okay. I saw myself die. My DM chose a false goddess. I cleared that. Cleared Mount Shasta. Activated Fiji, returned the Earth's root chakra back to Fiji, released all these souls out of Mount Shasta, and then in part 2 burned Archangel Samael, undid the contracts all the way back to Abraham Lincoln. Then I started activating the pyramids, boom, 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 and I kept doing more. And then I brought down the anointing of the blood of Christ, the actual blood of Christ, before I freed completely Jesus's soul and united Mary Magdalene and Jesus and undid the Holy Grail. Then came the Sekhmet timeline. So that was 5 years. Revelation 4:1-2. John, a symbol of the church, is taken up to heaven. John the apostle poisoned Jesus. Religion lies to you, okay? But the revelations played out on this channel. Christ opens up the first of 7 sealed scrolls. In the work that I did, what does God hand me every time?
Scrolls.
Scrolls. Everything I do, I read from a scroll, and I do it to the earth. In Israel, the 144,000 didn't all rise. So I had to use the trees to bring in the light of Christ. 6:3-4, Revelations, the second seal introduces a great world war. This was your spiritual warfare. Okay, people are waiting for the war to start. This is the demise of the matrix. Understand the difference. Then 656, the third seal begins, suffering of famine and inflation. They are revealing to you all of the false matrix continually, from food to money to electricity should be free, water should be free. All of these things have been rising in your understanding because I have been bringing the return of Christ since 2019. It has shifted the poles. I added 5 more because I took us into 7D. Like, this is the totality of it. And during that time, during actual bringing down of Christ's light, undoing all these things, removing all darkness, activating pyramids, I was judged, upon ridiculed, upon. This is why God's done. The heart measurements, done. People mocked at the path to righteousness. When he told me to put all the work together and call it the path home, people mocked it because God told me to charge for it, because money became more important. Looks, because I don't wear goggles of makeup and I swelled and I turned and people judged it. You don't realize what's been done. 6:12 to 17, the sixth seal exhibits the wrath of God poured out in the form of a mighty earthquake. Okay, right before that, the passage introduces the metrodome of those who are converted under the preaching of the 144,000 Jewish witnesses. The 144,000 are the twin souls, my friends, and they did not choose love, all of them. No, no, nay, nay, nope. I had to use the trees instead. So you can watch the whole entire thing unfold, and so many judgments come my way, and very, very, very little love, all the way into the new earth, might I add you. Okay, so now this is what God says. I'm going to stop sharing. You can read all of that on your own, but I need to get into God's message right now. And forgive me, Microsoft is farting. So give me just a second. Stop the share. I'm calling it to stop sharing. So just bear with me. But I had channeled a message today about what God has to say. Okay. I hope I didn't lose Amy.
Still here.
Okay, good. Bear with me, you guys. I'm telling you right now, if you use Microsoft, you might want to get out of it. Okay. I am transitioning out of my Outlook. I'm transitioning out of all of that kind of stuff. So whatever cloud you use, whatever programs you use, if they are Microsoft enabled, get out and get out now. Okay. Come on, baby. Come on. I'm going to love talk. Yeah. Cause sometimes we all just need a little bit of love here. Come on. So I know you can hear me, which is good. I am just trying to get it to switch back over. Please do not leave the live. I have something very important to share here. And usually when something important is coming up, stuff always interferes, Uh-oh. I don't want to end it. No, no, nay, nay. Well, Microsoft Windows is having a brain fart, it is saying. So bear with me. Amy, are you still there?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm going to go ahead and start to read the message. Okay, I know the screen, it might be green, it might be doing whatever it's doing on your end. I am not sure. But I just want you to hear me. Okay, this is what God said this morning. This is the message in totality he wanted me to bring. Okay, and this is what he says. 7-year tribulation has come to an abrupt early end, and rightfully so. Heart measurements and actions have more cleansing, and reset is required at this time. So there's a greater reset. So this is the reset of mankind. This is the 7th wave of creation. Okay, not just 7 years of tribulation. God calls what I did bringing the 7th wave of creation. All your past lives won't matter anymore. This is the great reset. You either stay, you go, or some will never know life this way. Okay, so listen. All right, it fixed. I can see us now on the thing. Hopefully it stays that way. I'm telling you, it's wonky. I ain't trying to mess with my system too much. Okay. But I'm going to read my channeled message. Are you still with me? Is it frozen on your end, Amy? Can you fill me in?
Oh, it's fine.
It's fine. Okay. All right. So here's what he said. I'm going to start over. 7-year tribulation has come to an abrupt early end, and rightfully so. Heart measurements and actions have more cleansing and reset required at this time. Justifications, willing blindness and lack of communications and willingness to be love unconditional has caused an abrupt change and shift. Unwillingness, to be of love unconditional has caused an abrupt change and shift and plans of rearrangement. This is God's words. Stillness, calmness, and the lack of want to rise. Didn't that guy say sit still, like a 2-year-old squirming off his lap, right? Stillness and calmness, and the lack, unwilling to be still and calm, and the lack of wanting to rise. A power pull of the light and love of the one I sent to you has gone unchecked. What was most important and has not been love. To seek truth beyond illusions and honor to the one right in front of you has left sadness at its wake, more than I speak. It is time now to feel the earth shake, to cleanse and purge what does not belong, what has been our home all along. Those that want to love, want joy and honor more than money, power, and greed will rise. Others will now meet their karmic demise. Make way for justice through God's eyes, heart measured deferment and karmic demise. Love unconditional is now on the rise. That was God's message today. Amy, what is your take on it? What has been your experience? You have witnessed and been a part of the whole thing. I'd love to hear it.
That's a lot to take in. That message basically tells me that yes, it's done. People that aren't paying attention are going to go, not necessarily perish, but they're going to, you won't see them as much. And when we say that, God doesn't usually, doesn't mean that they're going to perish. You just won't see them in your energy anymore, which is fine. I'm trying to think. Like, because they did judging towards you. There's a lot of different things. Some people don't understand that part of it. We should probably talk about that too, but because of the judgments and the towards you, towards the whole path of righteousness that we've gone through. So she comes back in. Hopefully she'll come back in. A lot of it has to do with how everything is happening in the world today. The different path itself, the religion, having to go through the twin flame journey, having to clear that. The pain that she had to go through to go through it, the clearing we had to do and help her out, the healings that we went through, all of it wasn't easy.